Meaney and Nelson Sousa here with you on Game Plus Network. You're watching Mean Streets, _franchise 12 on the Twitter machine. Nelson has an article already live over at FTN talking about the landmines to avoid in fantasy football drafts, high stakes leagues as well. You can take this as well in your home leagues with your buddies, whether it's on Yahoo, ESPN. You can take something, I think, from this and certainly from that article as well. And some of your rankings can be found over at FTN So we talked about a couple wide receivers putting on different jerseys for the first time and kind of their outlook here this season. Let's switch gears and talk running backs. Give us one running back that you are avoiding in some of your drafts, Nelson.
It's one of my rules that I follow for my fade list, and that's any running back that was a waiver wire pickup the year prior that's going in the top 4 or 5 rounds is always a fade for me. And this year that guy is going to be Elijah Mitchell. So I had him on a bunch of teams last year. The way I drafted my teams, I went with a running back to hang my hat on and then 4 or 5 straight wide receivers. So I punted my RB2 on most of my teams. So that's how I built them. So I was always searching for that RB2, whether I had the guy already drafted, on my bench in the late rounds or, on the waiver wire. And when he became available after week 1, he was a guy that I spent money on, 600 plus to acquire him. And he helped out my teams. He was great. But last year was last year. And this year, he's going in the top 5 rounds of most drafts. And I'm just going to be out on him this year.
And I will say this. You came in here last year and you gave that rule. And I don't know if you remember your 2 fades, Myles Gaskin and Mike Davis. Worked out pretty well for you, dude.
Yeah.
It worked out well for anybody that listened and watched the show.
Same,
right? Waiver wire pickups,
Myles, not elite, super elite talents, right? And they helped out their teams in the fantasy playoffs. And, people tend to gravitate or show some loyalty to, fantasy players tend to show some loyalty to those players. And Mike Davis, when McCaffrey went down, was great. He filled in, catching a ton of balls, and they said, well, he's in Atlanta, so it's obvious Mike Davis is going to be a home run pick. And,
wasn't.
And same thing with Myles Gaskin. He came on last year for Miami and was a great PPR back. But yeah, you just got to fade those guys. You can't. I look at don't even worry about what happened last year. With them and their performance, you gotta look at it as they were a waiver wire pick. They weren't even drafted in your fantasy draft. There's a reason for that, and you shouldn't be wasting high draft capital on those kind of players.
And let's be honest about the San Fran backfield. George, let's throw this board up one more time. I mean, when Nelson, you nailed it. I mean, Sousa was well worth the $600. He was a great waiver wire pickup. He was awesome. He got a ton of touches in that backfield, 20 plus. Like, you could count on it. I remember, searching for his rushing prop towards the end of the season in the playoffs. It was 21.5, and I always consider it. Not a big player in the passing game, only 19 receptions. From a point per game standpoint, RB 12. And then you see the ADP 50, you're right, top 50 here, RB 23, min pick 44. And Max in there at 56. I think even actually higher than RB23 on average, honestly. But I can never figure out this San Fran backfield, dude. They're just rotating through guys. They draft Sermon ahead of Mitchell. This year they draft David Price in the 3rd round, so they must like him. They got Hasty and Wilson on the roster. Say what you want about those 2 athletes. There's still a lot of running backs in that San Fran RB room. And when Shanahan feels a guy, they seem to be good. Like, whoever it is, they go through the momentum, and they're actually pretty productive. But I don't know if it's going to be completely his backfield. We could see some other guys get sprinkled in. Who knows? Sermon, like, would you be shocked if Sermon was leading the team in carry? Not overall, but had a game or two this coming season where He actually led the Niners in touches. I wouldn't be.
I mean, based on the way Shanahan treated him last
Yeah,
year, I would be
maybe,
a
I
little
guess.
bit shocked, but I totally get what you're saying. Is
Yeah.
don't be shocked in a Shanahan offense. Don't be shocked by who the leading rusher is for the 49ers this year. Don't
And
hang
you're
your hat on Elijah Mitchell
yeah.
this year.
Okay. All right, one guy on the way out of here. We'll get you out of here on this. Who's a guy that you have maybe a little bit of exposure to already, or somebody that's on your radar? Give us a little. It doesn't have to be sneaky, but somebody that you do like.
Like, how early? What are we talking here?
As early as you want. As early as you want. One of your faves. One of your faves.
One of my favorite players this year is probably. I'm probably going to end up drafting him ahead of ADP. Is probably CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
So he's a guy that I'm interested in. I mean, he's a second round pick. So that's kind of obvious. And I'll give you another guy, kind of like a more of a mid-round type of pick. I really like Kadarius Toney this year. So not really sneaky. He's going like in the mid rounds of NFFC drafts. So, but he's a guy that I think his skill set, he looked electric to me when he was on the field and they were feeding him touches. And he's a guy that I'm interested in this year with, Brian Dable now there as the coach and calling the shots.
Man, the Giants fans are going to see, I don't know if they're going to be one of the top offenses, but a complete 180 from the play calling over the past couple of years.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, to get Dable in there. And I do like Toney. You're right, he was electric when he was in there and he was healthy. And, CeeDee Lamb didn't return value last year, but I do believe he will return value this year with no Amari Cooper. He's definitely going to be the guy there in that Dallas offense. Dude, you're electric. I appreciate your time, man. Check out Nelson Sousa on the Twitter machine. Again, _franchise12. Check out the high stakes package. You got a link inside the description of this video as well. Lots of goodness there when it comes to Nelson and the fantasy football squad. Also, a podcast as well, right? You're doing the show again?
Yeah, absolutely. With Matty Davis.
Yep. Love it. And Matty Davis is a stud as well. We love him on this show. Okay, we'll take a quick break. We'll dive into some NHL picks. Thanks, Nelson. We'll be back here on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere.